Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt something strange? Not angry, not confused, just off. Like something happened to you, but you can't quite explain what. You replay the conversation in your mind, every word, every moment, trying to figure out why you said yes when deep down you wanted to say no. Why you apologized, even though you didn't do anything wrong. Why, somehow, you walked away feeling guilty. And then a thought appears in your mind, a quiet one, but a disturbing one. Wait, did they just manipulate me? The scary truth is, manipulation rarely looks like manipulation in the moment. It doesn't look like control. It doesn't look like power. Most of the time, it looks like concern, advice, friendship, sometimes even love. But behind the surface, something psychological is happening. Because manipulators rarely force people to do things. They guide them. They shape emotions. They influence perception until slowly your decisions start benefiting them without you realizing how you got there. And today, we're going to break down 5 psychological tactics manipulators use to secretly control people. These tactics appear everywhere, in friendships, in relationships, in workplaces, in families, sometimes even in leadership. But once you understand these patterns, something powerful happens. You start noticing them everywhere. And the moment you see the pattern, the manipulation starts losing its power. But stay with me, because the final tactic we'll talk about today is the one psychologists say traps people in toxic relationships for years, sometimes even decades. But first, we need to start with a tactic that often looks harmless, sometimes even generous, and it begins with kindness. 5. The favor trap. Imagine meeting someone new. Maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's someone you start dating, maybe it's a new friend. At first, they seem incredibly helpful. They offer advice, they help you with small things, they support you when you're stressed, they remember little details about your life, and slowly you start thinking, wow, this person is really kind. They actually care. But something subtle is happening inside your brain, something automatic, something psychological. You are building emotional debt. Human beings have a deep instinct called reciprocity. It means when someone does something for us, our brain feels a powerful urge to return the favor. This instinct helped humans survive thousands of years ago. Communities depended on cooperation. Helping others meant survival. But manipulators understand something powerful. They understand that kindness can become leverage. So they help, they support, they give, but not always because they care. Sometimes they're building something. Influence. At first, the favors are small, helping you move, giving you advice, buying you lunch, listening when you're stressed. But slowly, those favors stack up until one day they ask you for something. You hesitate, and that's when they say something like this: after everything I've done for you, I thought you'd have my back. And suddenly, saying no feels wrong, not because you agree, but because you feel like you owe them. That's when manipulation begins. There was a man named Daniel who once described a friendship that slowly turned into control. At first, his friend seemed incredibly supportive. He helped him find a job, helped him move apartments, even lent him money during a difficult time. Daniel trusted him completely. But months later, something changed. Requests started appearing. Can you cover my shift? Can you lend me some money? Can you help me with this project? Pause. Daniel agreed. After all, his friend had done so much for him. But the requests became more frequent, more demanding. And when Daniel tried to say no, his friend reacted with disappointment. Not anger, not shouting, just quiet guilt. Statements like, I guess I misjudged our friendship, or I thought you were someone I could rely on. Suddenly, Daniel felt like the bad person. That's when he realized something disturbing. Those favors weren't just kindness, they were investments. Investments meant to buy influence. But kindness isn't the only manipulation strategy. Some manipulators rely on something far more chaotic: confusion. 4. The confusion strategy. Have you ever argued with someone and suddenly the conversation stopped making sense? You bring up one issue, they bring up 3.
You explain your point, they twist your words. You ask a simple question, they give a long emotional speech. Before long, you're defending 10 different things, and the original problem gets lost. Psychologists call this cognitive overload. When the brain receives too much conflicting information, its ability to analyze drops dramatically. And when analysis shuts down, people stop searching for the truth. They start searching for relief. And manipulators know this, so they intentionally create confusion. They jump between topics. They introduce emotional distractions. They overwhelm conversations with details. Because once your brain becomes exhausted, you stop challenging them. You just want the conversation to end. But confusion is only the beginning, because some manipulators don't rely on chaos. They rely on something much more powerful: your conscience. 3. Guilt engineering. Guilt is one of the strongest emotional forces in human psychology. It exists for a reason. Thousands of years ago, humans survived in groups. If someone betrayed the group, ignored the group, or refused to help the group, they risked being rejected. And rejection in ancient times often meant death. So the human brain evolved a powerful internal alarm. That alarm is guilt. When we feel like we've hurt someone, disappointed someone, or failed someone, our brain creates emotional pain that pushes us to repair the relationship. Most of the time, this instinct is healthy. It encourages empathy, responsibility, kindness. But manipulators see guilt differently. They see it as a lever, because if they can trigger guilt inside you, they can influence your behavior. Without force, without threats, just emotion. The subtle guilt trap. The most effective manipulators rarely ask directly. Instead, they frame situations so that refusal feels immoral. They might say things like, "I guess I just care more about this than you do. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it myself like always. I thought you were someone I could count on." Notice something important. Those statements are not requests, but they create pressure, emotional pressure. Because now the decision is no longer about the request. The decision becomes about who you are as a person. Are you loyal? Are you caring? Are you supportive? And most people hate the idea of being seen as selfish, so they comply. Not because they want to, but because they want to escape guilt. Relationship story. Imagine someone in a relationship. One partner wants something. The other partner hesitates. Maybe it's a big financial decision. Maybe it's moving somewhere new. Maybe it's something deeply personal. Instead of respecting hesitation, the manipulator says something like, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't hesitate." Now the conversation has changed. It's no longer about the decision. It's about proving love. And when love becomes the issue, people often sacrifice their comfort, their boundaries, and sometimes even their happiness just to prove loyalty. That's guilt engineering. But guilt manipulation isn't the most psychologically destructive tactic, because guilt still allows you to trust your own perception. The next tactic attacks something deeper: your sense of reality. 2. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is one of the most psychologically damaging manipulation tactics that exists, because instead of influencing your choices, it influences your perception of truth. Imagine remembering something clearly: a conversation, a promise, an event. You bring it up, and the other person responds calmly. "That never happened. You're remembering it wrong. You're exaggerating again." At first, you argue, you defend your memory, you explain what happened. But after hearing the denial repeatedly, something strange happens. You start questioning yourself. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe your memory isn't perfect. And the moment that doubt appears, the manipulator gains power. Because if you stop trusting your own perception, you start relying on theirs. Why gaslighting works? Human memory is not perfect. Our memories are reconstructive, meaning they are influenced by emotions, context, and suggestion. When someone confidently denies your experience again and again, your brain starts searching for alternative explanations. And those explanations often blame yourself. Victims of gaslighting often experience self-doubt, confusion, anxiety, emotional dependency. Over time, they stop trusting their own judgment. And that's when manipulation becomes extremely powerful. Because if someone controls your perception, they control your reality. But even gaslighting isn't the most addictive manipulation tactic. The final tactic is something psychologists consider one of the most powerful behavioral conditioning systems ever discovered. And it's the one that keeps people trapped the longest. 1. Intermittent reward. Imagine someone who treats you incredibly well. Sometimes they praise you, support you, make you feel special. Then, suddenly, they withdraw, cold, distant, critical. Then the kindness returns again. This emotional roller coaster creates something powerful in the brain. Analytical tone. Dopamine addiction. Intermittent reward is the same psychological reinforcement system used in gambling, slot
machines, casino games. The brain becomes addicted to unpredictability because unpredictable rewards create stronger dopamine responses than consistent ones, which means the brain keeps chasing the good moments even when the bad moments become painful. Toxic relationship loop. This is why some people stay in toxic relationships, not because they enjoy the pain, but because they remember the good moments, the kindness, the affection, the attention, and their brain keeps hoping those moments will return, so they stay longer than they should, sometimes for years. Manipulation survives on one thing: invisibility. It works best when people can't recognize it. But once you understand the psychology behind these tactics, something powerful happens. You start noticing patterns. You stop reacting automatically. You begin protecting your boundaries. And the moment awareness appears, manipulation starts losing its power. Because control only works when you don't realize it's happening. If this video helped you understand human behavior on a deeper level, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because here we break down the hidden psychology behind everyday interactions so you can protect your mind, your decisions, and your life. And once you start seeing these patterns, you'll never look at people the same way again.